Good morning, everybody. I'm Simon Kilby. I'm Chief Revenue Officer at Bauer Radio, and I'm delighted to be here with Shelley Allison, who is Head of Marketing at Wickes. Now, for those of you who don't know, Wickes are the headline sponsor of the Dave Berry Breakfast Show on Absolute Radio.
Hello, I'm Dave. Couldn't give a gloss berry, and it's time to get some paint. Some of these are the same as my erotic dancer names from the early 2000s. Everyone remembers Greaseproof and moisture resistant. Okay, champagne, see, this is 50 millilitres. This is it. Done.
And I think fairly uniquely in media, when we get to the end of our current deal, we will enter the 10th year of working together. So what I really wanted to do today is just talk to you a bit about the sponsorship, your views on radio, and I guess the strength of the partnership.
Yeah.
Now, a bit before we kick off, I was reminiscing, knowing that we were doing this, about how the partnership came together. I had just started in 2012 at Absolute Radio as commercial director, and we didn't have a sponsor on the breakfast show. And I was being judged very heavily, as you'd expect, on getting one. And I remember working with Cara at the time when Wickes was being pitched.
Yeah.
And we worked as part of the pitch that, at the time, Christian O'Connell. And Cara won the business, things moved forward, and we got to the point where the last part of the negotiation was that Wickes wanted a 3-month break clause in the contract. And I was like, oh, that's not good, because we might be in this position. Little did I know that nearly 10 years later, we would be here. But it's just fantastic. It's been fantastic for Absolute and hopefully for Wickes as well.
Absolutely. It's a really important part of our channel mix and plays an important role in all of the communications that we put out. And I think the really important thing to stress is it you know, whilst it might be classed as a sponsorship, it's definitely a partnership in the truest sense.
Yeah, I wanted to get onto that. I was also interested in terms of what are the other things that Wickes value about radio in context of a media strategy?
The flexibility and the dynamism it gives us is amazing. I mean, we have moved away from, you know, pure spot buys across national radio campaigns to really looking at how we can embed ourselves more deeply into all of audio so that it isn't just radio. So things like in-stream become really important. You know, other ways that customers and listeners are coming into radio. So smart speakers and the way that people are listening now become an increasingly important way for us to consider how we're going to speak to customers. And that's always been something that's been in the background, but actually become more true, I would say, over recent times, for sure.
I wanted to come back to that point around smart speakers, but you mentioned something there about a shift from spot to more kind of integrated content. And I guess there's an element of a perception in the market that at times of crisis or recession, people move away from that kind of more branded content work to more ROI-based activity. So I guess I'm really interested in your perspective about how Wickes makes sure that you deliver ROI in context of a sponsorship and how effective it has been for you.
The partnership has been very, very successful and very effective for us, and that's borne out by the fact that we continue to come back to this partnership and continue to build it and grow it ultimately, because it's still delivering for us. And if it didn't, then, you know, we'd have to question that. But for us, you know, branded content is important because we are more than the value that we offer as a brand. And it's really important for us to, as a brand, to talk about more than just value and the price of something. It's important for us to make sure that people understand what we stand for. And this environment is unique in giving us the opportunity to do that and do it in a way that is truly delivered not only from the relationships behind Dave as an example, but also through Dave. You know, we've got a really strong relationship with Dave. He knows us, and, you know, we can nurture flexibility around how he wants to communicate, talk about Wickes as a whole, not only just, as I say, deals, but it's more about what we stand for broader than that.
What do you get if you take a very talented actor called Matthew playing the role of a decorator A tin of Daveberry paint from Wickes, but filled with water, and a whole load of staff members arriving for work. High jinks, that's what. Okay, we've got a fast-paced presenter.
He is in a rush. I think his show's about to start, in fact.
Well, he's not going to be happy about this. He's clearly wearing his favourite broadcasting T-shirt.
He cut it right in the face. He's not happy, you can see the anger.
I think, I just wanted to touch a bit more on that relationship, because I completely agree with you, and I think Wickes are one of the clients who've, emotionally and financially invested heavily in radio. And to me, if clients tend to do that, they tend to really understand it and fall in love with it, because that depth of relationship allows you to do some really interesting stuff. So I just wanted to touch upon actually how that long-standing, as I said at the start, by the end of our current agreement, will be into the 10th year, how that long-term and the long-term partnership and the depth of relationship make it more effective for you guys.
The longer, it's the same with any relationship, the longer you know each other, the more attuned you are to what works and what doesn't work. And that's on both sides. I think we're really proud of the fact that we recognise it's not right necessarily for us to talk in a Wickes voice over everything we do with you guys. That's not relevant to your listeners. So actually, by understanding your station voice and what your listeners, really tune into, we're able to flex accordingly. And that there's a fantastic creativity that comes out as a result of that. And the creativity means that a communication or a story arc can last for a really long time, but it becomes part of the show, and people will tune back into that. Spot buy, short-term activity, that will drive a spike, but actually what you want from a partnership is that for that to grow and nurture, so that actually there is an overarching halo effect across everything that you do.
Because I also think there's it's a really important point, is that the strength and the success of the partnership is down to the fact that there's a kind of mutual understanding that it only works if it benefits our listeners, but also benefits you. And I think the teams come together with a view that that's what they're always trying to do.
Absolutely, yeah. It's vital. It's key that if we were to disregard what your listeners tune in for and why they tune in, then we might as well just go and buy national radio spots. It's a very different thing. And there's a purpose for that, and a really important purpose for that. But in the light of a partnership and a sponsorship, it's slightly different.
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm biased, but for me, I listen to some of the content that's produced, and it makes me, the content that we have worked with you on, it makes me laugh, and it's as good as the content that Dave would come up with anyway.
So it was a really beautiful organic piece that came out of sort of, again, the mood of the nation. We were seeing people wanting to help others. There was a real surge of that, thanking the NHS and clapping for the NHS on a Thursday is a really great national example of that. But actually on the show, what we were hearing were listeners who were wanting to share good deeds that other people had done, and make sure that others heard about these amazing deeds.
We all need to look after one another. We all need to join together to support our families, our friends, neighbours, even those we normally wouldn't know. It's about us joining together, and we will get through this if we look after everybody. Every person that you're passing in the street is feeling the same as we are, and we need to unite. It's all about doing good deeds. So today on the show, I want to start a UK-wide good deed register. If you want to commit to doing a good deed in your community, then let us know, because by saying it out loud on the radio, you have to do it. That is the law. It's written in all the books. If you have received a good deed from someone, let us know.
So they were shared on the show, and what we did then was just say thank you to those customers, those listeners, so that we recognise some of these amazing things. And then, that's exploded into many other strands and arcs across the show.
It's a great story arc. So I guess the other piece that I really wanted to touch on is around shifting listening patterns and smart speakers.
Yeah.
Because, we obviously in the last 6 months have seen a real change in the way people listen. A significant uptake in people listening at home via smart speakers, and it makes me think about Wickes and how you're viewing sort of voice activation, and do you have a strategy for that now and moving into next year?
It's so interesting. We've been looking at this and we've been coming back to it. It's been a subject we've talked about quite a lot, actually, probably over the last 2 years. And of course, a couple of years ago, there was a real explosion into smart speakers, and, there was everyone got them for Christmas, that kind of thing. But actually the change in the way that everyone now is living, working from home more, smart speakers are becoming more of an intrinsic part of our home. And it's actually something we're coming back round on. We want to have another look at that because, this is another version of new normal, isn't it, that we're just about to step into.
Absolutely.
And, things aren't going to go back to the way that they were. Listening behaviours have changed, and we absolutely want to be on the front foot with that. So we are looking at how that affects plans, but also looking at things like podcasts. We've been looking and had those in the background for a while, but
right.
bringing those back onto the table and really looking at what would be our purpose and why would it be good? What's the reason for Wickes getting involved in that? Because that's the important bit. Yeah. What's the fit? Why does it work?
Yeah.
But I think there's definitely something there now, yeah.
Great. Well, listen, Shelley, I could sit and talk to you all day. Sadly, we have to wrap it up then. I just wanted to say a huge thanks for your time.
Absolute pleasure.
Look forward to working with you long into the future.
Absolutely. Thanks
Thank you.
ever so much, Simon.